One. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, everyone. This is Dr. Mustafa Ansari from the Afro-Descendant Institute of Human Rights. I have with me two distinguished gentlemen. I have Brother Ishmael Bey in the middle, and then I have our esteemed author and colleague, Dr. Clyde Winters. We're going to try to get Dr. Clyde in. He's having a little difficulty with his audio. So uh, continue testing your audio, Dr. Winters, because I know that you have a prior appointment, but we're going to start off with Brother Ishmael Bey. Brother Ishmael Bey is our East Coast Afro-descendant facilitator of the East Coast of the Afro-descendant nation. He's from the Moorish Science Temple. He's a Moor from the Moors in America. He is the founder of the Amen Ra Scholarship of African Scholarship for Moorish Science Temple. He and has been over the years communicating with different scholars. So this is the real Moors. This is, and I'm not saying the rest of them are not, but this is the most uh, established scholarly, one of the most established scholars from the Moors, and we'll have him in. He's going to talk about the Moors in America are the black people. Well, I'll let him explain that to you. So, Brother Ishmael Bey, I have your slides up, so you just direct me and I will be your host on that. But you can inform our audience as to your topic and how you're going to address your topic.
I want to thank you for having me, Dr. Mustafa Ansari, and I want to definitely thank you for having me on the show. To your guests that'll be watching the show. Um, so, what I'm going to be part of my presentation today will be tying the Moorish part of the history of the Afro-descendant nation. It's a very rich history. It's a very deep history, and it's also a very common knowledge history of how the Moors tie into the Afro-descendant nation. We're talking about a nation that's 250 million people, and with that vast amount of people, a lot of the history has been hidden because a lot of what we're doing as far as taking the step forward and creating a government has been kept away from the public.
Let
So
me
it's
ask
our
you.
jobs to make sure. Yes, sir.
Let me interject this. You said it was 250 million people. Explain that.
Yeah, the Afro-descendant nation is a nation of 250 million people. The 45 plus million of us here in the North America region. But then, you have a large amount of people that are also from Brazil, from Argentina, from South America. So, America is a continent itself, a large population of millions of people in Mexico. And a lot of this history is not known to the people because systematically it's been placed not tying us to this land and this territory. So that's what I mean when I say 250 million people.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. So a part of what I'll be presenting today is actually um, we even have a United States president that acknowledges the fact that we're indigenous to this land. Again, not common information, but we have the facts. And by ascertaining that truth and presenting it to the public, it gives us the premise of why we are saying what we are saying. When you say you can't be African and you can't be indigenous to this land also, we say emphatically yes. We have the data, we have the historical data, we have the factual and even the political data to prove our position. And that's what we will be presenting to the United Nations in order to prove our case.
Absolutely. Now, what I was going to have Dr. Winters to do as soon as he can get his microphone in place is to explain the how America's, especially the United States, was populated. And so, what I wanted him to go back to is go back 6,000 years, because Dr. David M. Hopetep informed us that the first populations, according to the peer reviews in the universities, say that America was first populated around 200,000 years or more ago. And so the rule of obtaining indigenous status is, oh, I can hear you a little bit. Repeat your testing, Dr. Clyde Winters. Oh, that was the telephone. Continue with the testing, because I was just introducing the periods, the time periods. So what I wanted to do was to only go back about 6,000 years, instead of going back 200. Go back 6,000 years to right before the Asians came to America, because the other 200,000 years population were just Africans that had made it from Africa through to the America by several different routes, and they were, and our scholars show evidence of them coming from the Atlantic, from them coming from Australia, from the tip of South America, and them coming from the Pacific during this 200,000 year time span. And so the Asians had not quite entered yet, and so the Asians are going to be coming in about 6,000 years ago. So what I wanted to do was to um, talk about how the complexion of America changed at the 6,000 year mark. And so my understanding is that your engagements, the period of time that you're going to be talking about, is going to be within that 6,000 years or further than the 6,000 years.
No, it's actually the experts like Dr. Clyde Winters, Dr. David Imhotep. They specialize in the more ancient connection of the Africans to the Americas. My job and my forte is to find the documentation that proves what they're stating. So, in other words, their specialty is being able to find the original Africans that were came here, and they have presented that information in their books, in their videos, in their career works. My job is to back up what they're saying and then prove it up in a more modern era. So, in other words, 1700s, 1800s, up into these modern times. That's my specialty. So they deal with the ancient, I deal with the more modern type of years, in particular when like colonial America and forward.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. Can you explain the engagements and the transactions that during the period of time that you're going to discuss?
Sure. I mean, there's a rich, like I said, there's a rich history in there. When you talk about, the 1500s when the Spaniards came. Of course, the Spaniards came, with Moors. So, by the Moors that were being established, whether it be Esteban being the founder of New Mexico, um, also, founding Arizona, and this particular longer of the history, then with those Moors that came with the Spaniards, there's a reason why Moors even came with the Spaniards. This was already a territory that was known by travel of the Moors. So this was not a
Yeah,
foreign
yeah.
uh,
Test.
type of engagement. This is something that was already being done. And if someone just believes that in
Okay, hold on. Let me
1492
see. Test it.
that this all just started, as far as the travel of Moors to America, that's just not simply realistic. So,
Go ahead. Go ahead, my brother. I'm just having a little trouble trying to work with Dr. Winter's microphone. I can hear you, but not through the microphone. But you can hear us.
I would say, Dr. Mustafa, sorry, you might want to put Dr. Winters on your speakerphone. That way, we'll still be able to hear him what he's saying by a speaker with your microphone.
Let's see if that'll work, because let's see. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna turn my speakerphone up. Okay.
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Uh, Speak up, Dr. Winter. See if we can hear you.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear him, Ishmael?
I can hear him better, yes, and hopefully the chat room will be able to hear him also. I can hear him.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Um, well, let's see if your hold on just a second, brother Ishmael. Let's see if your slides work. See if your screen share work because I know you wanted to talk about some things on your on some of the periods on your screen on the screen. See if the screen share works.
Can you see it?
No. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, okay. We can see it. Okay, we can see you. Okay, let's go ahead. Give your presentation. Let's see if we can hear you.
Okay, how's everybody doing? What I want to do is talk about the fact that we know about Black Native Americans because of one, eyewitness report, two, skeletal evidence, and three, iconographic evidence. It's very important that you understand that to understand the African or Black presence in the Americas, we have to look at it from the prehistoric period, which is 100,000 years ago to 1,600 years ago. The middle period would be 1000 BC to 1600 BC, and the early period is somewhat different. Okay, and the classic period would be 600 BC to 600 AD. It's very important to understand that when we discuss Africans in America, you have to understand in a sense that much of the evidence that we have comes from the fact that Black anatomically modern humans have been found in America for over 100,000 years. Evidence of these people have been found in Brazil and California. One of the most important things to understand is that we have to look at the craniometric information. In other words, many people believe that we only have pictures of these Blacks who lived in America. But in reality, we have a lot of skeletal remains. These skeletal remains have been collected over the past 200 years by anthropologists and archaeologists. What these skeletal remains show is that three different groups of Black people migrated into the Americas at different times and developed civilization and culture here. R.B. Dixon, in The Racial History of Man, noted that Australoid, which is another name for Africoid, must have been one of the earliest, if not the earliest men in America. Here we can read, and I'll read this page. The most cursory inspection reveals one fact of great significance, i.e. the Dolus spelling types are concentrated in a very striking fashion in the marginal areas. Thus, the Caspian and Mediterranean types are found in great strength along the northern and northeastern coast of the continental and in Greenland, appearing elsewhere except at one or two spots or near the Pacific coast. It's very important that you understand when archaeologists talk about Caspian or Mediterranean, they're just talking about Black people who have white features, like the Ethiopians and some other people, you know. Okay, the proto-Negroid and proto-Australoid types are also listed, occurring in the largest proportion along or near the Pacific coast and in the region east of the Great Lakes. This book by Dr. Dixon is very important because what it shows is that white people, anthropologists who really studied the ancient history of the Americas, they know that Black people were here first, but they try in a sense to keep us confused. Contemporary bioarchaeologists also recognize this. James Critter, he's done a lot of research on Kennewick Man and Antique Man. These are the most ancient skeletons of anatomically modern humans in North America. This is what he said. Modern Native Americans closely resemble people of China. These are Paleo-Americans, Naia, Apinua, and Lucia. Modern Native Americans closely resemble people of China, Korea, and Japan. But the oldest American skeletons do not. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Archaeologist and paleontologist James Chatter.
Brother Ishmael, can you hear pretty good? I can't hear you, Brother Ishmael.
No, I had turned my microphone off out of respect. I can hear him, but it sounds like it's kind of far away. Can you try to put it to the one that's by your mouth? That way, it probably might pick up a little bit better.
Okay, I'll put it there.
Brother Mustafa, sorry.
Okay. The Paleo-Americans were
There you go. Much better.
Here we can see Kennewick Man, Danaan Woman, Lucia, and some of the others. We know that Dr. Nida Guido in Brazil, she found evidence of black people in Brazil dating to 100,000 years ago. And this is very important to understand because the research in California indicates that humans have been here since 130,000 years ago. Okay, other than that, we don't have any earlier skeletal remains. Okay, what people don't understand is that Africans have had great nautical knowledge in Africa, and one of the reasons for this is because of the gigantic lakes and rivers. Okay, look on this map on the right side. As you can see Lake Chad, Lake Congo. These lakes covered most of Africa. And then when you look at the map on the left,
I don't see your map. I don't see your map. Hold on. Which slide it is on? Which slide is your map on?
It should show. It says that I'm sharing.
Okay, you are, but what I see is many Muslim tribes and the original paintings of Black Mohawk Indians in Moorish garb.
No, I haven't got that far yet.
Okay, well, that's what I see on my screen.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll come out. Okay.
Okay, now I see you. Now I see your migration patterns. Go ahead. I see the map.
Okay, so now I can see the maps. And what happened is that many of these lakes, like Lake Chad and Lake Congo, these lakes were larger than the distance from Africa to America. So as you can see, people were selling these lakes for thousands of years. Okay, we find in a sense that here's some boats that have been found in the Sahara, and this boat on the right side shows oars and others. The Funa boat is the oldest boat in the world. It was found in Nigeria, and it dates to 18,000 years ago.
My God.
Okay, and so one of the reasons that people get things twisted is that they don't understand that there was no way that you could get to the Americas from Asia. Okay, look at this map. This map shows that ice covered the area called the Beringa Strait all the way across Canada into North America. Okay, because of the spread of this ice and the ice in Europe, nobody could walk. Nobody could sail. But what we find is that the Solutreans were the first people to migrate to America. Let me explain to you. People don't understand that the first cultures in Europe were the Aurignacian and the Solutrean cultures. Both Aurignacian and Solutrean came from South Africa. 44,000 to 14,000 years ago. These were the Khoisan. And so what we find in a sense is that they early migrated to the Americas. These people, they left these artifacts. And these are some of the tools that they made. Okay, some of the sites in South America date to 50,000 and 100,000 years ago. But the sites in North America are a little bit earlier. Here you can see some of the tools from Oyster Cave, Maryland, 23,000 years ago. Miles Point, Cactus Hill, Virginia, Meadowcraft, Pennsylvania, and Jefferson Island, Maryland. And so what we find in a sense is that these early blacks came and they developed a civilization. Again, we can look at Nita Guiran and her work in Brazil. It's very important to understand that one of the weaknesses of black people is that we like to organize into tribal groups. Okay, the basic organizing principle for Black Native Americans was the tribe. The Black Native American tribes would then organize themselves into confederations to meet threats from enemy Indian tribes and Europeans. These confederations were made up of Black and Mongoloid Native Americans. Okay, for example, when you hear about the Iroquois, people think that's a tribe. No, it wasn't a tribe. The Iroquois were actually a confederation of 6 Native American nations: the Cayugas, the Mohawks, the Seneca, the Oneida, Onondaga, and the Tuscarora.
Teach, brother.
In terms of power, they were perhaps the most formidable Native American groups in North America and the most represented in the imaginative works of European settlers, controlling at their zenith a territory from Massachusetts to Ohio and Quebec and Ontario to Kentucky.
My goodness.
The most important thing you have to understand is that people try to pretend that we didn't exist here because of the fact they try to say that the iconographic evidence is just pictures. They had great European artists, and these artists recorded these early black people that lived here. Okay, the major locations of the Black Native Americans were from the east coast of California on up into Canada. Much of what is now Georgia was a stronghold of the Black Native Americans. These blacks lived predominantly from the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina southward as far as St. Augustine, Florida. The vast majority of Native Black Americans lived in California or along the eastern seaboard in North America. They belonged to many confederations, including the Muskogean, Algonquin. Some of their tribal names include the Choctaw, the Tuscarora, the Colan, the Potawatomi, the Tamaqua, Nanaco, Oshida, Wakashita, Seminoles, and Yamasee, to name a few. Black Native American tribes mainly belong to the Iroquois, Muscoan, and Algonquin Confederacy. It's very important to understand that most Mongoloid Indians did not, I repeat, they did not come here and live in towns and cities. They lived in teepees and were nomadic. A vast majority of the Native Americans on the East Coast appear to have been Muslims. We call them Moors. Okay, and as you can see, you can find many of the early black Native Americans wearing Islamic garb. Then we have some Mohawks. I have pictures of others, so and I'm quite sure that Ishmael has even more than I have. Okay, another center was California, and these are some of the people in California, especially some of the ones that were up on the upper coast, appear to have resembled some of the people that live in Melanesia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we have some other Black Native Americans. We have a Blackfoot on the left side, and we have some brothers having a powwow on the right side. Okay. So again, the Black Native Americans have been here for hundreds and thousands of years. It's very important to understand that that Black people didn't really accept Christianity until the slave rebellion of Nat Turner. Before that, most Black people were either Moors or Muslims or had their traditional African religion. Christianity was used by the European to keep us in a submissive state. Okay, thank you very much.
Wow, what an excellent presentation to the extent that it almost sounds like deja vu. What we're doing right now with our confederation, it seems as if we are following the ancient footsteps of the ancient African Native Americans that were here prior to the fourth population wave, when they formed these confederations for power and strength.
But the only problem is that we had two things going for us. Number one, the Mongoloid people always sold us out. They always sold us out. They sold us out. We let them come into our towns and our villages. We adopted them, and then they would always sell us out. For example, during the Yamasee War, the Yamasee almost ran most of the white people out of Georgia and North Carolina. But then the Cherokee and some brothers from the Cree, they joined the white man. And then what happened is that we lost the war. And so it's very important to understand that because of the fact that Black people understood that it takes time to become successful, most Black Native Americans used a policy of accommodation. In other words, they tried to accommodate white people because white people didn't make treaties with us. And the reason white people didn't make treaties with us is because just before that, the whites in Britain and other places had just thrown off Black Muslim rule. So when they came over here, they decided that we're not making a treaty with a brother. What they did in the sense that they just took our land. And that was it. And then they said we were colored folks. And then those that didn't end up on plantation ended up in colored communities with freed slaves and some of the free Black people that came from Europe. And so what happened is that many people lost their history, but we maintained our culture and much of our language.
Excellent. I'm still very floored by the explanation, because as a lawyer listening to this, it shows that we can prove without any doubt our right to those lands in Georgia, California, and much of that territory. Yes.
Illinois.
Ohio.
Chicago. I live in Chicago. You live in Chicago. Or Chicago.
That's right.
That's our territory too.
That's right.
But again, as I said, is that I was looking over some of the cases before the UN, and they always want to see a treaty or some other. White man made no treaty with us. He took it, and that was it, you see. But if we study history, if we study anthropology, we can tell that it was our land. See,
Well,
that's what they hate. That's why they hate us.
Well, that's
why, if you notice,
they hate you especially because you can uncover them, and they don't really like me or Ishmael that much as well. And we know why, and they never have. We were the ones that they picked out to have lynched. We don't want you talking to anybody else.
well,
I don't want to make light of it, but it's that's American history.
The point is this: is that I've been out debating these Eurocentrists since 1996.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is this: is that they don't. Most black people are lazy, but I'm skilled in research. I had to learn about 20 languages to do my research. Mm-hmm. And so what happened is that the European, he knows he can't argue with me. So what he does, is that he has these people who don't even know anything about black history, American history, or anthropology, linguistics, etc. And they get on and they try to make up stuff. But I'm telling you, if you really study the history, anthropology, linguistics, you can see that this was our country.
Excellent. Well, this is what we're after now. This is the reason why we brought you with us into the United Nations, because when we filed our brief in the UN Decolonization Committee, we cited your work because I've been in this area for about 15 years. I'm not a linguist. I'm a legal historian, but everything that you just said links up with and confirms my information. So this is the reason why Dolores, we decided to take you, Dr. Winters, into the this is why we decided to take you into the UN, because of the fact that the only thing that we have to prove is the fact that we were here prior to the colonials. And what that allows us to do under the rule of law is to say that we are indigenous, and we have the absolute right, and anybody that came after us are belligerent occupiers. And this is what the courts have called the colonial people who taken the land by force is belligerent occupiers. The good thing is that we don't need treaties. Treaties would have been nice, but sometimes they're not nice, because if you put your signature, or whoever they picked out to put their signature probably couldn't even write on these treaties and gave the white people land, then they have a counter argument that no, this land is ours because the original people gave this to us. So that's
why black people never left the land. When they had the Trail of Tears, they tricked some black people to follow them, but the majority of black people stayed in their own land. We had a lot of villages and cities down in Georgia, Carolina, all that, Florida, but many of them, declined because of economic problems. But we didn't leave the land. We didn't leave the land until the Great Migration up north. Other than that, we stayed on the land. And we stayed on the land because we knew it was our land. Yeah, we couldn't maybe take it from the Klan, but the point is this, is that we knew it was our land. And that's the most important thing. And that's why the European hates us. People look at us and they say, wow, they brought all these people from Africa? Why do they treat them like that? They treat us like this because they know this is our land. Because they know this is our land, they're afraid that one day we're going to take it back. And we will get it back.
Well, that's the reason for our action right now. We are looking, and this is our strategy to take the land back. Right now, there were 15 million of us who voted in the last election for Hillary Clinton and failed election. The presidential election before, there was 16 million voters of us who voted for President Barack Obama. In order for us to take the land back, we need at least 1 million declarations of nationhood. And what this does, Dr. Williams, is say legally in a court of law, this is our land. And now, because of the fact that we have your research and other doctors' research that can substantiate that, we automatically, it's not a difficult case at that point to prove that we had this land 100,000 year plus prior to them coming on in the colonial period.
And not only that, but you got to look at this, is that they've been counting us as 1/3 ever since we've been in the United States. We need a full census accounting of how many black people are really in the United States. You know, they haven't counted us properly because they always want to make you feel you're a minority. And they do this systematically, you see, and that the Constitution has allowed them to miscount us ever since slavery. Remember, the Constitution says that we should be counted as 1/3. You see, because they didn't want the slave states to get the full counting for their African population. And I believe that they're still doing that. I don't think it's 45 million people in America that are descendants of African slaves. I believe it's about 80 to 100 million.
My goodness.
They're lying. See, we don't have access to the actual census records. So they tell us whatever they want to tell us. And over the years, I've worked at universities, and I've seen black people sell us out. They can know the truth, and they'll stand right beside these white people and tell you a lie. Just like today, we got all these black geneticists, and they're not even telling us the truth about our genetic heritage, our phylogeography. See? Because the fact is, this is that they want to stay on the sideline and perpetuate white supremacy.
Explain that. If we have black geneticists.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What happens is this. I taught at Governor State, and I also taught at St. Xavier University. I was a lecturer. Okay. I was a lecturer because I was teaching for the Chicago Public Schools, and I made so much money that I didn't really have to try to be a professor. Okay. I taught for 11 and a half years. And see, I taught education because I wasn't stupid enough to get a PhD in anthropology or linguistics because I knew that they were going to try to fight me and give me a hard time. So what happened is that if you want to become tenured, you have to go along with the status quo. The status quo is white supremacy, right? So our black geneticists, black anthropologists, and black linguists, they're going to side with the white man.
I got you.
Because you can't get a job. You can't keep your job if you don't maintain the status quo. And the status quo is white supremacy. Keep the nigga down.
Absolutely. Since the inception of them coming into our country, that has been the case. The good thing is that indigenous rights trump colonial force and taking of land. So when we take this into a court of the law with your information and on the on the legitimate occupiers of the land and how they occurred and how these Indian tribes occurred and where they came from and the original populations, and we find out through that process that those original people have become us through the illegal laws that have codified them as colored and Negro, along with the imported Africans who came and mixed with them. That milieu, that those people have become Afro descendants, have become us, according to law. And so when we take this into and when we have made our filings in the decolonization committee, it's difficult to almost impossible to them to refute anything that you've just said right now for several reasons. Number one, they weren't even around. Number two, we have the skeletal information. We have all of those types of evidence, the metallurgy, the genetics, the DNA, the haplogroups, which I know that you have written on extensively. We can prove that. So this is the reason why we will win, because we're going to take a very measured scholarly approach to get the legal judgments, and we're going to, as we're doing today, we're going to do a massive educational piece as we take each city by city democratically.
Okay, I'm going to have to leave now, and thank you very much for allowing me to communicate with the brothers and sisters out there.
Definitely.
And you guys have a great deal, and I hope Ishmael can share more knowledge about the influence of Muslims or Moors in the Americas.
Thank you so much, brother. So good to have you on. Still good to have you on. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. All right. Ishmael, I hope he didn't have to. He left us quickly. Hopefully, he knows how to get back in. Let me see if he's in. Oh, okay. All right. So let's look at the legal analysis. What this means to us in the present day. In the let me just get. All right. What does this mean? What does this mean for us right now? The fact that the first peoples in the Americas were African natives, and they were the Khoisan people, and that they came, and that was one of the people that came from South Africa, but that we can prove that we came to the Americas, was in the Americas, from 100,000 to 200,000. Peer reviews right now are at 230,000 years. That we can prove this through the peer review articles. Peer reviews means that other scholars have looked at your work and have confirmed it, in a way that it has now been reviewed and confirmed by members, other professors, other peer professors. So we can absolutely prove that we have come out of this milieu as to look like we do. What I have coursing through my veins because of this experience are Africans, Asians, and Europeans. And this is the usual makeup of the people that are colloquially known as African Americans. They are not a race. They are a mixture of at least three races. That's all of us. We're part African, we're part Asian, and we are part European. That's the thing. So what has occurred because of that is that we have become a special population under the rule of international law. This is not the rule of America. America has tossed us away into this category of just being a minority. of being just a simple minority at that, where refugees are in that category almost. But any immigrant, any people that comes to America, the first day are in the same category that we're in. We're going to change that. That's just illegal. We're going to change it for a number of reasons. Economics is the main thing, because politics, and if you've been listening to me at all, I give you a really simple understanding of what politics is that you can take to the bank. Politics is basically is who gets what. So this entire thing about America, who was in America, first, and who were the Indians and how they were created. All that tells a story of who gets what, who gets the land, who gets the right to make decisions on that land. That's the issue. So now that we can prove this, what happens? Now, since we have this knowledge, we can negotiate with your help. We can't negotiate with 6,000 people. We have 6,000 citizens, and I love every one of our citizens. But in order for us to make this move from where we're at now to being repaired, and this move in and of itself, not waiting on Congress to give us money, this ruling in and of itself, this move would repair us about 40% back to where we should be. What this would mean would be that Chicago, New York, Black Belt, Oklahoma, the black towns, all of this, California, those original areas will now be up under an indigenous government, an indigenous confederated government that will still have a relationship with the United States. So when we hear this thing, we just want to separate. That's not legal talk, because we just can't separate. We're intertwined here in the United States, but we can have a different relationship because we are a special population. People that have a special population, indigenous people, have a right to land. That is what our courts tell us. Now, I'm not telling the American court. I'm not talking about the Supreme Court. I don't even really legitimize that court, except for its decisions that we can overturn. But the international court, the courts of nations, and the agreements between the nations, all the agreements from the nations says that indigenous people have superior rights, and colonial people are belligerent occupiers. So the international world, all the courts in all the other nations, and all the other nations have come together in what we call conventions. This is when they go to the United Nations and they sit in their General Assembly. You usually see all the nations with the little placards in front of them. They have made this law up, not me. I am a lawyer who studies these laws, the conventions, the doctrines, the principles of indigenous status, the right to determination, the right to nationality. This is what we teach in the Afro-Descendant, we changed our name, Afro-Descendant Institute of Human Rights. We teach these realities. Why? Because we need to come to a position in which we have our land and the control over the decision making in that land back in our hands. The United States, this is not an unusual configuration. In fact, the United States has these agreements with about 500 people like us and look like us. They have this agreement with the 500 American Indian tribes that are really our tribes. They have this agreement with Samoa. They have this agreement with Fiji. They have this agreement with the Mariana Islands. They have this agreement with Mariana Islands. They have this agreement with the Hawaiian indigenous people. All of the indigenous people, except for us, have a special relationship in which they are entitled to special rights. This is where we can move to. We can obtain these special rights, these special subsidies, and these land rights. What does that do for us? That changes the whole ball game. That now means that we have eradicated poverty. People that have land rights, especially in a superpower, are not impoverished. So now we have the right to 100% housing, 100%. There should be none of us that are homeless. There should be none of us that are in their jails. There should be none of us that are really in their schools unless we want to go to their school. We should have control over all our schools, over all the areas in which we live, especially in the majority. We can do that. This is the reconfiguration of what we are doing right now. So when you obtain our declarations, what those declarations allow us to do is to, and what allow you to do is to obtain these rights of nationhood, the benefits of being in a nation, so that when we can move up to 1 million, 2 million residents, 2 million citizens. Like I say, 18 million, 15 million of us voted for Hillary Clinton and got nothing. 16 million of us voted for Barack Obama, got nothing. In fact, he was against any reparative measures for us. And he gave the Indians, who he went along with the status quo and said that they were not us, he gave them land rights and billions of dollars to settle bad trusteeship deals with the United States. So where do we fit in? We fit in to the Afro-descendant nation. That's where you fit in. You fit into the Afro-descendant nation. It is your declarations and it's your work, not just giving us a declaration, I'm a member of the nation. We appreciate that, that's good. But now that you're a member of the nation, now you're conscripted to do work. You're conscripted to do work in two ways. You can either be a member of the Civilian Defense League, which is every member of our tribe from 7 years old, of our nation from 7 years old up to 75. You can retire after 75. But in between those ages, everybody has to do something to push and build a nation upward. Everyone has to throw a brick, has to be a member of the Civilian Defense League, or we have another wing in the National Black Panther Party. New Black Panther Party is right now is configuring that wing. This is a wing of direct action, because this thing that we're doing is a $17 trillion to $40 trillion change. So it's going to be a protracted battle in the courts and in the cities in which you live. In the cities in which you live, you have to take control if you're in the majority. And when you take control, you have to confederate with the rest of us if you want power, to be able to control your own destiny. And that's how America is really set up. Whoever's in control of an area in the majority, whether they're Jews, Italians, farmers, whatever they are, they have a democratic choice. That's how the Republic of America is set up, to become the city council, to become the governors, to govern that area. That's what we have to do. We have 1,200 majority populated Afro-descendant cities in the United States, 1,200. We have to control them, and not only control what's going on in the city limits, but we have to among the people, but we have to control what comes into the city limits, and who has the ability to economically develop within the city limits. This is the change that we're bringing. We want our contractors, we want our teachers, we want our policemen, we want everyone that is an Afro-descendant that looks like us to now be in charge of the police department, to be the judges, to be the storekeepers, to be all of that in our areas. These areas are not segregated areas. These areas are now become integrated economic areas in the society. Let me run that past you again, because the white media is going to tell you that we are resegregating America. No, segregation is a power play of those who have the power to to take everything out of society and just exclude and segregate those funds and that wealth to the detriment of the few that are not in that particular race class. What we're doing by taking over our areas in this whole republic is to now integrate our decision making, our economy into the larger economy. Our economies, even though they're going to be encapsulated, are not this separate from the American economy. What would this allow us to do, allow America to do, despite what the racist says? This allows us now to resolve the racial problem, because the racial problem at a certain level becomes economic. And we have found, and the scientists have found, that when you are a peer of another person, when you have the same capabilities as that other person, when you have the same capacity in schools, economy, agriculture, and everything in your own areas, and you show that you can be the man and woman of the hour to self-rule your governance, where does racial discrimination come? You can't racial discrimination will begin to dissipate because of our advancement on discovering who we are. So I was very delighted to have these scholars now backing up the nationalists. And I'm so glad that the nationalists are not just fist pumpers anymore, that we have become lawyers. We have become international lawyers. We have become international experts. We have become international linguists and geneticists. So now we can do our own changes. We can now put into effect what we want America to be for us. And that's where we're going. So I'm so delighted to have everyone here. We're going to take this to YouTube. This is going to be transferred to YouTube after this particular session. So this will be a lesson that you can take and put in your library, redo it. We're going to have Dr. Winters back on a certain time. Right now, we're going into the building process. So we're opening and expanding our school to 500 students this semester. Reason why is because we need to teach 500 people at the minimum how to govern these areas, because we can't govern them like the white people governed us. No, we are putting a different flavor on governance of people called the human rights governance and human rights development, where we take our juveniles, we don't lock them up in the key, throw them away forever because they committed an indiscretion, even a horrible one. We take our juveniles and our offenders and we rehabilitate them so they can come back into our society as extremely gifted people. We do not throw away our little kids who have failed and are not doing well in school, and no, we redo and redesign the school so it's the utmost and the most fantastic school. LeBron James did a fantastic job, bless that brother, with his school in Ohio. It's giving them the top equipment, giving them backpacks, giving our children self-esteem with themselves. This will cut down the crime. It will cut down poverty. So we know that we're doing the correct thing. So get your declarations in. Get into you. We'll have your address. We'll eventually put you into the census, and we will start developing our country, because this is ours, and we want to have a even face-to-face relationship with the whites that are now in the Supreme Court and Congress and have most of the wealth. We want to have our share of this pie because it's ours. We baked it. We produced the apples. This is the American apple pie is our pie. So we want more than a slice. So thank you very much for coming. I'm not going to keep you much longer. We have reached our hour limit. We only go usually an hour and a half at the most. depending on the topic. So thank you so much for your attendance, and you can get a copy of this on my YouTube channel, Dr. Mustafa Ansari YouTube, and you'll see this and about 12 or 13 other presentations that you will enjoy as well. So thank you very much for having me, and we'll see you next Saturday, because we're going to build up our attendance, our school, so that we can train human rights directors, city facilitators, so they'll know how to govern and control their areas, to control the economics, control the city workers, control the schools and the jails, and everything that we need to control as a nation. We're going to learn a lot of that in a 2-year course called Human Rights Director / City and State Facilitators. This will allow those people who get this training to now become a part of the interim government, not the elected government, but those people that will get those skills will have enough skills to become a part of the interim government and run for election. Because what we're really after is elected representatives. Elected representatives by the people, the people's government that has the people's good intentions and the nurturing of a government to a people. This is the type of government that we are looking for and searching for. So thank you very much again. We will be back next Saturday on Facebook. Go to Afro Descendant Nation or either Afro Descendant Institute of Human Rights. Our website is www.adihr.us. That's AD, African Descendant Institute Human Rights.us. ADIHR.us. Go to that, and you'll see the declarations, and you'll see what you can do. So until we see you again next Saturday, and we're going to be on Facebook a lot this week and a lot this next month. So we got 2 reparations conferences coming up. We got so much work to do, so get your declarations in so you can get your assignments, because this is going to be a total thing. If we want to live good, then we have to work at a good rate to be able to realize those new realities in our neighborhoods, in our communities. So again, thank you very much for having me. This is Dr. Mustafa Ansari, your brother. Talk to you next week. Thank you so much.